this is not the problem. This is, because this has already happened to the town of Kandersteg, and it was only a tiny little bit of what can happen there. I want you to remember the Vajont Dam disaster. I'll put that in the end screen, because this is what this can cause, because this, and not only this, way more, can fall into a lake. And if you have seen what happened to Blatten, it wasn't a lake, it was a glacier that was coming down with the mountain. And you see the graphic here. Do you see the graphic? What is coming down to Kandersteg? Then you know that you have to watch this video. Kandersteg is not just watching a mountain, and this here was not the same area that is now threatening Kandersteg. Kandersteg has to watch out for several areas, and it's preparing for the possibility that part of a mountain, a large part of a mountain, could come down above the village. Well, I have to say, it starts to come down above the village, but then it comes down on the village, unfortunately. And that is a little bit a year after Blatten that I'm reporting about this now.
Weil, wenn aber alles miteinander kommt, dann haben wir hier ein Problem. Und das Problem kann ich vielleicht hier visualisieren. Im schlimmsten Fall haben wir bis hier Wasser und Schlamm. Weil wir sind hier im Gemeindehaus genau in diesem Einzugsbereich von dem. Das ist der schlimmste Fall.
So, the problem is that the speed at which the peak of that mountain, the Spitze Stein, is moving down the valley. It's already moving. It's already on its way. It has increased. According to Nils Hehlen, he's the head of the Natural Hazard Department of the Canton of Bern, Switzerland, Europe. This is where we're looking at right now. He says, quote, "The section that is sliding the fastest is moving about 6 to 8 meters per year. That's a little bit under 30 feet. That's a lot," which is a lot, he also says, right? He said, and this, listen to this, "We looked for comparable cases in the Alps and elsewhere in the world, but it was difficult to find such high rates of displacement." And now spring and summer are melting the snow and the ice, which acts as lubricant for these already cracked mountains. And that's the part that makes it so dangerous. Kandersteg, the village of Kandersteg, is under strict monitoring and emergency planning because of the Spitze Stein, like the sharp rock, if you translate it, right? It sits above the village and above the lake that is called Öschenensee. But guys, it's not just this little piece of rock that we're seeing here in that image. It's a way larger part. So thawing permafrost has destabilized this rock formation here on that mountain peak. And at times, GPS sensors have recorded a movement of up to centimeters, 3 feet in a single day. 70 centimeters, guys. That is significant in one day. So the latest official update still says parts of the slope are right now moving at least up to 6 centimeters, like 3 inches per day. And that is not theory, guys. That is a mountain flank that is moving right now. We just talked about Akernes mountain in Norway that will fall into a fjord. And if you're in Geiranger and from the moment it falls, you have 10 minutes to live. If you don't make it to higher ground, you won't make it to higher ground in 10 minutes. So what they're doing there, it's in the end screen. You have to watch it. It's insane and it's crazy, but also the Vajont Dam. It's all connected. So one piece is up to 20 million cubic meters of rock could be involved, but if a major section breaks off, and we had that in Switzerland just a year ago in Blatten, the danger may not stop where the rock lands. A massive rock slide could crash towards the Lake Öschenensee, the Öschenensee. So it could displace water. If you take a dive bomb into a pool, you know what I'm talking about. Tsunami, right? Alps tsunami. It could push water, mud, and debris into the channels below, and that could send dangerous debris flow Moorgänge, how we say in Swiss language or German language, down towards Kandersteg. Same issue as Blatten. And this is why Blatten changed everything, how we look at stuff like that, right? This 2025 May mountain disaster showed what happens when rocks, glacier, ice, mud, and water move together. And it didn't even need a lake to fall into. It created a lake, burying the village of Blatten. Blatten was evacuated before the collapse, but the village is still devastated. So now Kandersteg is the village everyone is watching, because above it the mountain is already moving, significantly moving, noticeable moving. And Kandersteg has already seen what it looks like. What I have shown you in the beginning, that is February 2023, a rock wall near the Almenalp above Kandersteg broke loose. The whole wall came down. Huge dust cloud basically exploded over the valley, and if you've seen the images, it's kind of frightening. So witnesses also described the noise they heard as massive. Thankfully, nobody was injured, no buildings were destroyed. It didn't go far enough, but that was, we have to say, thankfully, not luck alone. The area had already been closed because experts expected a collapse. So not luck alone, I'm talking about people that would be lost. So around 15 to 20,000 cubic meters of rock came down. So significantly less than what is threatening Kandersteg right now. So that definitely was not the same unstable monstrosity of flank like the Spitze Stein above Lake Öschenensee, or Lake Öschenen, because See is lake in German. So, but what is the warning image for Kandersteg, right? But it is the warning image that Kandersteg does not need to imagine anymore, right? When this wall came down in 2023, the valley did fill with dust. And the only reason that a rockfall does not become a disaster is actually the preparation before the mountain fails. So the bigger threat sits not on the 2023 side, it sits on the other side actually, above Lake Öschenen. Spitze Stein has been under close watch since 2018. So 2018, that was when unusual rock movement, they saw cracking, and they saw repeated, like smaller rockfall, making it clear that something's going on there, right? That this mountain flank was no longer stable. And this is not a small cliff that is crumbling a little bit. This is a moving mountain, a moving rock mass that is measured in millions of cubic meters. And when we look at the official and also the technical assessments, they describe that we are dealing with 20 million cubic meters of unstable rock. But that can multiply very quickly. If it comes down and it takes ice, debris, trees, mud with it, then it becomes way more. In cubic feet, hundreds of millions of cubic feet. So enough rock, we have to say, to reshape the valley floor. Like Blatten, it has reshaped the valley floor, as you might remember. Enough rock to fill channels, enough rock to turn a mountain collapse into a water and debris disaster, Blatten style. And the worst position for that rock is, unfortunately, exactly where it is, above the lake, above steep gullies, above a small stream, the Öschibach, above Kandersteg. And that can mix to a dangerous disaster. So that's why this is not a single rockfall story alone. This is a chain reaction story. First the slope moves, then a section breaks loose, then the material crashes downhill. It hits water, saturated debris, loose sediment, hazard changes. Not longer falling rock, moving everything. Thicker, heavier, faster, can carry big boulders, can block channels, can overtop protective structures, can create no lakes down in the valley, and it can follow the valley towards people who never stood under the original rockfall. who are further away. That is the absolutely nightmare scenario. A collapse high above the lake becomes a destructive flow lower in the valley. And this is why Kandersteg has spent years. They have built protection walls, emergency systems, radar, GPS, cameras, drone, precipitation logs, hazard maps, closed zones, protective dams, evacuation planning. So they're not ignoring the mountain. They want to be prepared. They want to give people warning time, like they did in Blatten. But then still the calculations were wrong, and it was worse, and they lost one person, the shepherd, actually on the other side of the valley. So Kandersteg is living under a mountain that must be watched every day. And the mountain does not have one simple trigger. That is what makes it dangerous too. It can be pushed by heat, rain, snow melt, permafrost thaw, even water pressure inside the cracks that goes in the cracks. And of course, the gravity, the weight of the broken rock itself. Right now, officials say inhabited areas are not considered endangered by the current situation, and that is important. Kandersteg is not under evacuation order right now, but that can change in a second, right? That does not make the story less dangerous. It makes the story more tense because this is the phase before the decision, right? This is the phase where every tiny movement of that unstable slope matters. Every rainfall matters. Every new crack matters. Every fresh rock fall matters, right? This is the movement when the valley is still open. Tourists are still coming, lots of tourists. People are still living their lives, living in Kandersteg, and the mountain above them is still moving and threatening them. This is what makes Kandersteg different from a disaster after the fact, we have to say, right? It's a warning video. Blatten was a brutal lesson. Evacuation can save lives. Lake Oeschinen is beautiful if you're on the lake, but if you're on the lake when that happens, right? Shizzy's hitting the fizzy. So I will keep you updated about this. And as I mentioned, watch both videos ideally, or here in the end screen, because this is absolutely crazy. And I'll see you there. Stay safe. Bye-bye.